Alright, so here we go. There we go, I fixed it. So every 3 seconds we're going to have a new bad guy pop up on screen. And you can tell by the new coordinates. 154, 147, now this is 350. However, this is getting really confusing. How many badges do I have on screen right now?
Like, a lot.
I don't know. So, did you guys get this from the off-campus learning day? Did anyone get the index of the badgers where it says badger 1, badger 2, badger 3?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to continue and we're just going to work our way through all of this, and if we get to the end of it, awesome. If not, we'll finish this on Monday. So, if I want to show this, right, it's getting hard to keep track of each badger. Add the index so we know which badger is which. All I need to do, the X location of the badger, I'm going to do is this. And what do I type in here? Anyone want to tell me? Luke?
I did the string version, but I don't know if you need to do the string version. But that guy slash index, parentheses, badger, +1.
Why the +1?
Because otherwise it'll show 0 as the first badger.
Yeah, and we don't like that. That is correct. Everyone get that? So now when we run it, badger 1, badger 1, badger 1. Now we have badger 1 again because one badger got deleted. Now we have 2 badgers. Now we have 3 badgers. Now we have 4 badgers. Now we have 5 badgers.
If you go back to...
And then I'm just going to print a blank line so that's easier to see. So what this is doing is it is in the list, in the bad guys list, we are finding the index of badger. Now, badger in our game is, I'm actually going to, once you guys are done, I'm going to write this on screen because I like writing on a whiteboard on my computer. So, I'll get back to it, so just pay attention up here. So if we have bad guys, this is our list of all the bad guys on screen. It's one big list with a bunch of smaller lists inside of it. No. How'd that even happen? Delete. According to this list, how many bad guys would be on screen? 4. We have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 there. For right now, our bad guys consist of an X and a Y coordinate. Does that make sense? So this bad guy here, if we have a big, this is, let's say this is our game board, right? We have our 4 things over here. We have our bunny. Right, with shooting his arrows. Okay, everyone tracking with me? This X and Y coordinate here corresponds to this badger. This X and Y coordinate, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do this in different colors. This X and Y coordinate deals with that badger. This X and Y coordinate deals with that badger. And notice I'm doing them in different shapes for a reason. Actually, I don't like that. Okay. Each one of these correspond to a different bad guy on screen. Does that make sense to everyone? Does that make sense? Does that not make sense to anyone? Zoomers? Everyone good? Okay.
Yeah.
Luke, was that a no or a yup?
Oh yeah, I said yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to add an image, right? That's the next step. Once we have our index of all of our bad guys, because this is Badger 1, Badger 2, Badger 3, Badger 4. Make sense? So now we know in our code where each bad guy is. Badger 1, Badger 2, Badger 3, Badger 4. Tracking with me? Each time, Badger 4 is moving 7 pixels to the left, which is why we have this line of code right here. If we don't have that line of code, our bad guys don't move. They stay in the same position. So we have to move our characters a little bit. And every bad guy currently moves 7 pixels. We can change that if you have different bad guys. Does everyone have this code?
No, I don't know the time not sleep thing.
This is secondary. You don't need it. It's just something I did so it's easier for you guys to see everything.
Wait, can you run it one more time on the see if it does the exact same thing?
Yes, Anna.
Can you slide it to the bottom? Also, mine says time is not the time.
Because you didn't import time.
Oh.
Yep.
You didn't scroll it.
Yeah, I am at the top. There's line 1.
Where's time?
What even is
There.
time?
There it is. What is time?
What is time? Who defined a second, bro? Whoa. Okay. Are you good, Anna? Okay. So the next part. Oh, our code's still running. My surface is so warm right now.
Yeah, mine doesn't do the right thing.
I'll take a look at it after.
It's close, but it displays the first one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, that's what it should be doing, it sounds like.
7 times the first one.
Then you're doing, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll take a look at it later. I gotta get through all of this. So now we want to add images to each bad guy. We can do that by adding another element to the bad guy list. Instead of just XY for the badger, we'll make it XY image. This will allow us to randomly select bad guy images for each badger or bad guy. Yes, Cole.
I have a question about this. So
About this?
yeah.
Okay.
So like I did like image equals badger, gopher, and raccoon, and then I said like have like then a print image.
Yeah.
So it just said like the bad guy is. Because like that's what it said in the example. So
Yeah.
How we're supposed to do it.
Yeah, so what I would do is I'd have bad guy images equals a list. And then in here I'd have badger, raccoon, gopher, and ant. Now in our game that we make, we will have this, but these will be individual, these will actually be, don't type this. Well, this will be the file path to the image for our badger. Then we have raccoon is pygame.image.load. Lost, wow. File path. And in our bad guy images, we would actually have the variable badger. We'd have the variable raccoon. Does that make sense?
Never mind. I was right. I used a repeating variable.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I used time for the timer.
Oh, yeah.
So it messed it up.
Gotcha. Does that make don't be copying this down. This is just what we would do if you wanted to do this for your game. Does that make sense? You load in the images, and then you have a list of those images, and your code picks one. So, now when we load a bad guy, when we spawn a bad guy, not only does it need an X variable or a Y variable, what else does it need?
Image.
An image. So how do we do that, Luke?
I did r.shuffle images before the list, and then I put images in bracket 0.
Oh, you could do it that way. I would recommend r.choice, and then you do bad guy images.
Oh yeah, I did the whole like random 0 line images.
Oh, yeah, that you could do it that way, but this is just.
It's less efficient.
Does this make sense to everyone? So it randomly selects an image from here, and that is the bad guy image. What you can do, you do not have to copy this down, but you can go image equals r.choice bad guy images. If image equal ant, health is 1. Right, don't be copying this down, just be paying attention. And now I can have in my images, I can have image and health. So now if the bad guy is an ant, it only takes 1 arrow to kill it. But if it's a badger, elif image equal badger, health is 4. So then it takes 4 arrow hits to kill it. Else health is 2. Right? You can do that, and now not only do I have an image for my bad guy, I also have differing healths depending on what type of bad guy it is. This is really, this is one of the gameplay elements you could use for your final game, FYI. Does that make sense?
You want to use health?
I don't care. You just, if you have different types of bad guys with different types of attributes,
Is that a,
that counts as a gameplay element.
how many three was that?
But it's not like health, image, weapon is 3. It's bad guys with different attributes is 1. However many attributes, there should be at least more than 1 or 2. But does that, as a concept, make sense?
Yeah.
This right here, our list of bad guys, is every attribute we want our bad guy to have.
Could you just run what you have right there?
No.
Nope.
No, because I haven't defined health. Well, I doubt it. And, oh, yeah, I don't do anything with health or image later. So
Oh, never mind. Alright.
it works, but. So I'm going to get rid of image and health, and I'm just going to go r.choice. Yeah, r.choice bad guy. And I'm going to delete all of that. So now if I want to display what the image is, I'm going to copy this line, paste it, and just change the image of the bad guy is, if this is the x coordinate, 0 is the x coordinate, 1 is the y coordinate, what's the image?
2.
2. And I can put the health of the bad guy, if I had health here, after image would be badger 3. Bad guy, yeah, badger 3 is my health. I can have speed. I could have, if the image of an ant, speed is 10, because it moves way faster than a raccoon does. Raccoon only moves 6. And instead of having this be 7, what would I change that number to? In general, I would change that number
To the speed of the bad guy.
to the speed of the bad guy, which would be a certain index in the list of bad guys. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, cool. So the image of the bad guy, I'm going to change this to bad guy. You don't have to. So now let's see if this works. do we get an image? What I do. So it prints the X location and the Y location of our first bad guy. Why am I getting an error? I add a bad guy. I add the image down here.
And that's not range. Because we didn't didn't add image to the original list.
That's exactly correct. I don't have an image for my starting bad guy. You can make it random. I'm going to do Badger. So I'm hard coding the starting location and the image of the first bad guy. No matter what, the first bad guy will always appear at 1550 and be a Badger. Can you randomize it? Yes. I'm not going to because that's how I know. It just helps me. If I know every time it should be this. So I have bad guy 1. What did I spell wrong? Oh, it's bad guy images. Is Badger, 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 Ant. Oh, darn it. 3 Badgers in a row? There we go. So now I have an ant and a raccoon. Okay, so that is okay. So that's what you guys should have gotten done for the off-campus learning day, or at least worked towards. And now we have it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our arrows into the game. So remember in the previous in the list problems you had 4 bad guy in bad guys and 4 arrow in arrows. You had 2 for loops. You had a nested for loop. So you had the arrow for loop inside of the bad guy for loop. The reason that is my bunny's shooting arrows, right? If I have 5 arrows shot, what my code is doing is it's going for every bad guy, check to see if any arrow is hitting it. So what it's doing is it's going, bad guy 1, I'm going to cycle through every arrow on screen. Are any of those arrows hitting you? No. Bad guy 2, are any of those arrows hitting you? No. Bad guy 3, are any of those arrows hitting you? No. Bad guy 4, bad guy 5, bad guy 6, bad guy 7. Which is why the more things you have on screen, the slower your game goes. Because if I have 100 bad guys and 100 arrows, how many times is it cycling through 10,000. So it's checking 10,000 things for every one loop of our game. Which is why once things get off screen, we need to delete them so that the game's not trying to think of all that stuff. So this is a little hint for Badgers and bad guys and for arrow in arrows. So we're going to jump in here. And where did I put this again? For arrow right after. Okay. Basically, we're going to do the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. And inside of the for loop, right? Does everyone got that? And we're going to change these variables. Now, I had students criticize my variable names. So instead of for arrow in arrows, we're going to do for arrow in quiver. Quiver is going to be all of our arrows on screen. Make sense? I know technically quiver is what holds the arrows, but in our code. So using the prompt, using the code that I gave you.
Wait, when did you give us that?
Don't you guys have it?
No, it wasn't on the original sheet.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about it.
You added, yeah.
Well, it's saved in the student resources folder, so if you guys want to copy that down, or just make a quiver list with like 1 or 2 arrows. It doesn't need to be 5, so just give it.
Does it matter about what the numbers are?
Kind of, but not really. If you, so that's I thought you guys had access to that. Sorry. So literally just quiver equals, put 2 lists inside of a list.
What? I can't access the thing. I hate when it does it.
Well, there's a link on campus. Are you clicking that?
Yeah, it's says sign in is not complete or something. I'll try again.
That's weird. Because you shouldn't have to sign in for that. Alright, so I'm going to go for arrow and quiver. Okay, that's all I'm changing in our for loop.
No, we're
And I'm going to change bad guy to arrow. Do we need the image line? Are we changing our arrow image? No, we're using one image, so I'm just going to delete that line entirely. Instead of bad guys, what's the list we're cycling through?
quiver.
So I'm going to change all these to quiver. What's the index we're looking for?
Index of arrow.
Arrow, index of arrow. And then I'm going to change badger to arrow as well.
I have a question. If I download this, will anything you add show up there?
Nope, once you download it as is. So if you were to download it right now, you would have what's on screen right now. It wouldn't constantly update.
So it's kind of a dumb idea to do that.
No, it's a great idea to make sure your code works up until a certain point.
No, to download the OneDrive of the resources.
If you have OneDrive enabled, like you have a Microsoft account, yes, it'll automatically sync, but once you open it, it's not a file you and I can both be working on at the same time. Alright, so let's just make sure our code's working, give or take. So you guys should have something like this, where it cycles through bad guys and arrows. Yes.
So for some reason, mine isn't getting the right index, even though I wrote down exactly what you put.
I hate to say this, but if it were exactly like I put, it would work. So there's something tiny, there's probably something tiny that's wrong. So I'll take a look at it after class. You'll just have to deal with the error for a little bit.
Alright.
So once we have that, our code, we have a bad guy and we have our arrows. So for every bad guy, it's checking every arrow. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes, Asher.
What's the name of the thing in resources? It's called like
The file I'm using? In-class answers for loop badgers. So once we have this, really the only thing we have to do is double check to see if things collide, right? So, very similar to what you guys did in the advanced list problems, we do if. In that assignment, what was the if statement? Do you guys remember? To determine whether or not arrows collided?
If bad guys equal quiver.
That would mean every single bad guy has to be in the exact same location with no images. So that's close, but no cigar.
would you do like what's the width and the height of the
You don't need to know that.
you don't even know that?
Nope.
Would it be like badger 0 equals arrow 0 and badgers 1 equals arrow 1?
Very close. The answer to what you guys had for your advanced list problems is this right here. If badger equal arrow. That was because we didn't have an image associated with our badgers in that assignment. Will XY ever equal XY image?
Probably not.
No, it won't. So we can't just have badger equals arrow. How do we compare the badger XY coordinates with the arrow XY coordinates? There's two ways you can do this. Well, technically one, but
Wait, I'm confused. I feel like we have to know the height and width of
You
the
don't.
badger to do that.
nope,
Is there some way to function?
nope. Well, but we're not getting into that yet. All we're comparing is the exact XY coordinates of the arrow and badger. Lorian.
Second time today. But would it be Badger bracket 0 and bracket, or Badger bracket 1 equal arrow bracket 0 or arrow bracket 1?
Very close. What?
No, I'm just confused. Oh, right.
If the first two objects of Badger are the same as the first two objects of Arrow. Because in the advanced list problems, it was the x and y coordinates. If the x and y coordinate of an arrow is the same as the xy coordinate of Badger, delete them. This is saying if the first two objects of Badger, which are x and y, are the same as the first two objects of Arrow, which are x and y, delete it. You can't just have Badger equals Arrow because Badger has the image. All we're doing is x and y. It's literally pixels, right? Right now it doesn't make sense because they're very, 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 very tiny, but we get rectangles around the images, so we get to that.
Wait, so technically what I said was right, it just wasn't as, what's it called, efficient. Or,
I don't know. No?
I said Badger 0. Yes, it would, yeah. Because the first.
Yeah, you said you said or. Badger 0 equal Badger.
And, sorry.
It'd be and, yeah. They both have to be it. So you were very. That's why I said very close. But so then what we're gonna do is we gotta do bad guys dot remove Badger, just like we did in the assignment, and quiver dot remove arrow. And then just to make sure, print Badger and arrow collided. That just lets me know that if statement happened, because otherwise I don't want to have to deal. I don't want to compare lists. Does that make sense to everyone? Zoomers, are you good? Okay. Yes.
I keep getting an error saying that list indices must be grouped to hear the slices, not a tuple or a
Tuple. Do you have this up here? Do you have everything in brackets up here? Or do you have some parentheses? Because whatever index you have, whether it's arrow or Badger, I don't know what line it's happening, whatever this is, the Badger or the arrow, it's not being read. It's being read weirdly.
I think I found it maybe.
Okay. So now when we run this,
Yeah. I forgot one comma and like go a step further.
oh,
And like in between the,
okay. Glad you found it. I'm not seeing my arrows are colliding at all. So I need to force that to happen. Also, my arrows aren't moving. They're always staying in the same place. I need them to move diagonally, whether it be plus or minus. How do I do that? Maureen?
Would you have to change the x and, like, would you have to change the x value and the y value?
Yep, the exact same way I do with my Badger. I just do it with arrow bracket 0, comma arrow bracket 1 equals arrow bracket 0 minus 3, arrow bracket 1 minus 3. So technically those are actually moving up, not down. They're moving up and to the left, which is fine because it doesn't matter which way they move as long as they both move. You guys understand this line? We went over it with lists, the multiple assignment trick. The number of variables on one side of the equal sign has to have the same number of values on the other side, separated by a comma. If you don't like this, you can always do that, which might make it easier. So now when I run it, Wow, as soon as the bell rang, Andre just took off. Okay, so the one last thing, I gotta change that to 18. So if you change your if you changed your quiver up here 18 and 53 and loop it and run it, you should get the badger and arrow collided. If you don't, we're going to finish this up on Monday to make sure everyone gets it, and then we'll start applying this to our pie game. But for now, that's the end of class. No homework. Yes, Anna.
Is this recorded on one of your?
Is it recorded where?
Did you record this for later?
I did, yeah. I'll put it up on YouTube today. You guys get it? All right, cool. I'm going to stop the recording.